Hello, hello.
That's
Hey,
my
Ras, yeah.
okay. That's my co-host Elvin. So a little technical difficulties at the start of the show here. I think it's all good now. Producer, it's all
Yeah,
good now.
it's all
All
smoothened
good.
up.
Yeah, go ahead, my producer. So once again, starting all over. Welcome to Ras Takes On Europe. I'm your host Ras, and that's my friend from my motherland, Elvin. How are you doing, Elvin?
I'm doing great, Ras. And very interesting jersey you have on
Yes,
there.
yes, yes. We're gonna talk about it soon. We're gonna talk about it soon. Alvin, by the way,
Yeah,
I heard lockdown has been extended in your neck of the woods. How's it going
yeah,
for you?
yeah. Basically, they extended another couple of weeks.
Yeah,
So we just have to carry on with life as it is in this lockdown mode, and I don't know how long more it will get extended. So we're just getting used to this, man. Yeah,
I hope it's all resolved soon, man.
yeah. That's the thing.
Okay, if you're watching in for the first time ever, this show is all about the Champions League. So if you are a fan of a non-English club, do not shy away from this show because this show is not primarily focused on English league clubs in the Champions League. We have a holistic approach to it. So we're covering all teams and as many teams as possible. So if you're doing well, you're not doing well, and of course, obviously the big teams mainly in Europe, regardless of league. And we've got lined up a very good show today. We'll be looking back at match week 1 of the Champions League and we're looking forward to match week 2 of Champions League football as well. So, yes, Alvin, I mentioned about my shirt today. Last week, by the
Yes.
way, I had Michael Jackson's shirt on. So, if any Michael Jackson fans out there, give me a holler in the comment section.
Yeah,
But besides that,
which group was Michael Jackson on the Champions League? Okay.
the Jackson Fives.
Yeah.
So yes, so on this T-shirt today, yesterday on the Napshot Studio, my friends Kel and Joe had a very good show on local football, local Singapore football, and the bottom line from that show is support your local team. So here it is, my local team, my kampung team, Negeri Sembilan. So that's why I'm wearing today, Negeri
Oh
Sembilan.
yeah.
Yeah, Alvin, who do you support locally?
Selangor, bro.
Selangor, the Giants of Malaysia.
Yeah, the
Even
Red
though
Giant
anything is
Selangor.
dominating, they're still far away from Selangor, right?
Yes, bro.
All right,
So
and sorry, continue, Elvin.
yeah, so today also, this being a European show, I decided to wear the jersey of the La Liga toppers at the moment. Sociedad.
Yeah,
So, and talking about Real Sociedad, during the late 90s and early 2000s, if you remember us, Niat Kaweci, Dako,
yes,
Kovacevic,
yes,
the deadly partnership. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
correct. Yeah, I remember that team. I remember those players as well. And nice
yeah.
topic you brought up there about the 90s and 2000s. Me and Elvin, I think we are suckers for football from that era. We like looking back in nostalgia at that era, the 90s and the noughties, if you call it.
Yep.
And we'd like to know from the viewers now listening in, how many of you are interested for us to maybe have a segment on this show on that era or have a brand new show on that era? Let us know again in the comment section. Hit us up. So we'll check up on what you got to say on that era. And Elvin, on that era,
Yes.
recently a very big manager announced his retirement.
Yes. So finally, after close to 40 years of being a manager with various clubs and all this, the Don himself, the cigar smoking Marcelo Lippi, age of 72, decided he's had it. He's calling it quits, and it's tired. And well, to me, he was definitely a great figure of the 90s. Okay, and bringing, in fact, guiding Juve to that 95-96 Champions League win over Ajax, because after that moment, Juventus entered 5 finals. After that, we thought winning one. So Marcelo Lippi, in fact, won their last Champions League. Let's see what happens this year. But also, I'm sure our Don Lippi has given you some memories supporting Italy, Ras.
Okay, well, Lippi, no doubt Juventus legend, no doubt Italy legend, and I thank him for letting me experience the biggest triumph on the international stage, which is winning the World Cup.
Yes.
However, he was also an Inter manager, and that period as an Inter manager, I think that period greatly disappointed me, and left a sour note for me because of his relations with my favorite player of all time, Roberto Baggio, when he was at Inter, and how he brought the team down as well. And so my opinion on Lippi, I'm indifferent on him retiring, and just my opinion is just that, okay, as I said, legend for Italy, legend for Juventus, but my opinion on him has soured a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, people watching in right now, I need you to like us on Facebook, share this stream, and subscribe on YouTube. Yep.
Yes, guys, like, share, subscribe.
And now it's time to bring in the guests. Elvin, they got to speak about Lippi first as well, right, Elvin?
Yeah, correct. So, let's bring in our guests today so that they can share their thoughts on Don Lippi as well. So our first guest and our second guest as well. Welcome, guys. Rafa and Antonio. How's it going, guys?
Hello, everybody. Good to be back.
Good evening, gentlemen. Nice to be back again this week.
Yes, cheers. So quick one, Antonio, your thoughts on Lippi, Marcelo Lippi?
Outstanding manager, but I think perhaps his cycle it's done. Most probably, I mean, these sort of managers, I think they have achieved so many things that unless there is something new that really touches their heart, or they find like a new challenge, it's very difficult, I believe, to bring them back to the daily action and the mental strength. Money-wise, he doesn't need it for sure. Yeah. So that's why I will say, well, maybe he's been, out there waiting for the right call from any of the perhaps big teams in Europe. It's not coming, as far as I know. And then thank you very much. And I'm going to watch, football from the side of the pitch. So nothing much besides that. He leaves a good legacy behind. And definitely I would put him in the top 3 Italian managers ever.
Rafa?
Yeah, I think, Raz, Alvin, Antonio, you've said it all already in terms of his international and in Italy domestic success that he's had. What I'd like to point out, what we haven't mentioned yet, is that Marcelo Lippi has also been quite of a trailblazer in Asian, especially Chinese football. He's won no less than 6 trophies in his time in China for Guangzhou Evergrande, including a couple of Chinese Super League titles, and of course the coveted AFC Champions League. So he's really left his mark there, and he's the most successful manager in the history of Guangzhou. So top-down legend. I would even go further to what Antonio said. I'd say he's a top 5 manager of all time. Even.
How to motivate someone that has achieved so much, right? Across the globe. So
I think he's 73
difficult.
He's 73 years old. He's done it all in multiple continents. I think he has nothing else to prove. He can enjoy himself now, live his life with his family, relax on the beach. He's done it. He has nothing to prove. All
right. Okay, we got a comment now on Lippi. Let's see. Calvinder Gill says, is there a modern Lippi or manager with similar traits? Ooh, that's interesting. Anyone? I don't see a modern Lippi at all. My personal opinion. I think the era that he coached in and the way he coached, managed the team, I think that's gone. It's bygone era.
Anyone? And the golden generation of players that I remember him having them at Juventus in particular. Difficult to repeat. I can see some similarities with the golden generation we had in Spain, that we clinched a couple of Euro Cup titles and the World Cup. We are still looking back, thinking, when are we going to have another generation like that? And I think unless we put that chapter and we close it, we put it aside and we close it, we will never do anything again. So it's, definitely difficult to repeat that golden generation of players.
Yeah, I think Lippi stands on its own, but as if you talk about somebody that's close, I would think Massimo Allegri. It's he came in quite close, but at the same time, what Lippi did for the Italian national team, where he used Pirlo as the deep lying playmaker and Totti as a more advanced playmaker in that role during their run to the World Cup, was something very interesting and a very, I would say, un-Italian kind of team. Where they were entertaining and did score a lot of goals as well.
Yeah, I mean, that one for Italy, a lot of heartbreak for me. So many close calls, nearly, and then finally this team won.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say this was the best Italian squad that we had, but he made it work. So credit to him on that. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another comment. Let's see what's it. Mark says, Antonio, you see Lippi and Del Bosque similar for their achievements in their respective countries?
Mark read my mind 100%. It was exactly the name I was thinking about. Maybe in Spain we could bring in Luis Aragonés, because he was really the one that changed that mindset. Which I think we can talk one day about it, if you want. But I think the Spanish problem that we have before us, eternal underachievers, was up here, was the mindset. And Luis Aragonés was able to change that mindset with the players, and then Del Bosque elevated the squad from of course achievers to global achievers. Nobody thought in the past that we could win a World Cup, and we were able to do it. But Mark, spot on. That was exactly the name I was thinking about and the comparison I was doing in my mind.
All right, great. We're going to move on now to the first topic of the day. We got lots of things to talk about. The big game of last week, PSG versus Manchester United. I know my friend here, Elvin, is super excited about this topic. So, Elvin, your excitement, please bring it forward to the viewers.
Yeah, so definitely the whole excitement about this was, of course, the end result as well, and Ole has done it again in Paris. But what came out of this was, and which we would like to discuss further, is Captain Bruno as well. So Bruno Fernandes being ended the captaincy really drove this team and brought them to different heights, greater heights. From what I see, me personally, I feel he's a better off captain than Harry Maguire. But what do you think, Rafa? Do you think it is? Do you agree with this point, or do you think that if Ole gives the captain to Bruno and let Harry focus more on his defensive duties and not carry on that captaincy? What do you think, Rafa?
First of all, congratulations, Alvin and Ras. That was really a good win for Man United, and to all the Man United fans, it was a fantastic performance in Paris. Bruno Fernandes was one of the key players, and I think he has the right traits of a captain. I think he's somebody who can really spur the team on. He has the drive, the determination that motivates his teammates. So he leads by example on the pitch. So I think in terms of captaincy, he's definitely a leader on the pitch. Having said that, though, I think it wasn't just him in that performance. I believe the man of the match was actually the goalkeeper, David De Gea, who had an outstanding performance as well. So he was phenomenal, back to his best. And as we've seen over the weekend in the Premier League, Bruno Fernandes was not the captain again. It was business as usual, and Harry Maguire took the armband again. So I don't really expect to see a repeat of Captain Bruno anytime soon. If Harry Maguire is playing, as he is still the club captain, he was appointed that, and I do believe that it's not really. I don't think the captaincy is an extra burden for Maguire. I think it's a confidence thing with him, but I don't think he's as bad as some of the media make him out to be. He's had a solid outing against Chelsea on the weekend, so I think he's slowly coming back. And apart from his wrestling move in that match. I think he's had an excellent performance.
He nearly gave you a win.
And he's slowly coming back. I think he'll remain the Man U captain as long as he's on the pitch.
Okay, my point on this, I try and make it as short and sharp as possible. For me, well, when Ashley Young left United, they had no Bruno at that time. So I felt Maguire was the right choice as the captain at that point of time. So no Bruno. I think Maguire had the leadership qualities, had something in him to at least be the captain. So I feel when the club has chosen this guy as the captain, I think it's not right to just quickly change it to another person. And it shows that there's some stability in the club. As it is already, United is not as it was in the past. It's very unstable. It's a toxic environment. There's a lot of negativity around the club. So I think they don't need an additional negative focus on the club. And on Bruno, I think, well, he did well. So maybe when Maguire is not playing next, Bruno will be the next captain. But bottom line is, I think that a team that wants to be successful needs more than one captain. They need leaders, and as many leaders as possible on the pitch, in the training ground, in the dressing room. So that is very, very important. So Bruno has come on. He's the leader. He's also a leader. Maguire is a leader. You've seen Pogba with the French national team. He's shown he can be a leader. So hopefully he can be one for United as well. And maybe even young Marcus Rashford, he's leading in a different way on a social angle. And, hopefully he can come on as a captain, as a leader as well in the dressing room, on the football pitch. That's my 2 cents worth on this matter. The question I got to ask Antonio is that, you see, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has always been belittled as a manager that has no tactics. Everyone says Solskjaer, no tactics. But he changed the tactics not once but twice during the game. He started off the game with a different tactic, and then during the game when he saw that maybe PSG was gaining ascendancy, he changed it again, brought on Pogba and changed the game. So what do you make of this? How crucial were these tactics in helping United beat PSG?
Well, definitely. I mean, let me start sharing that. Definitely, the changes. If he was the owner of those changes, definitely pay back. But as our good friend Hey Jude say, and is commenting right now, I don't think he is a manager with a great tactic knowledge from the strategic point of view. Hey Jude say it's not a maestro. So it's not a Pep Guardiola who literally changed the world of football with his view on how to play offensive without a proper striker. So it's someone, Ole, that hasn't brought in anything to the game. I'm not criticizing him. I'm saying that there are these high caliber teams, sometimes rather than a maestro or rather than someone with key strategic tactic skills, what you need is someone who is great at managing changing room / egos / I know the club very well. And actually, Ole ticks all those boxes. He knows the club very well. And I do believe that he's a very good or someone who can manage egos quite well. I could give you, a couple more examples of that profile of manager. Don't get me wrong. This is exactly the same feedback, the same comment that a few years back was brought into the table in regards to Zinedine Zidane. Was it really leaving a mark in European football? No, but Real Madrid won 3 UEFA Champions League in a row, which is something that nobody will do again. I believe so. So is Zidane or is Ole a great manager of egos? Is someone who will take care of the players, listen to them, talk to the Pogba, talk to the Rashford, talk to the Brunos, and try to get the best out of them? For sure. Is he going to leave a maestro, Mark, as Hey Jude mentioned? Is he going to leave, I would say, a legendary way of playing football? No. And so far, how long he's been in the position, Manchester United has not been extremely successful. However, here and there, they get their results, and we cannot forget that the result the other day in Paris once again is remarkable, and it was the right way of starting the group stage.
All right. Well, very, very comprehensive, Antonio. Thanks a lot for that. We've got some comments here. Steven John says, Raswinder Pullar and Alvin Lutz. Do you think MU will do Liverpool a 30 years wait to finally win a league title? I think so. Yeah.
I hope so not, man. I will be Marcelo Lippi's age if that's going to happen.
Me too. Yeah, but this is a strange phenomenon of English football. Yeah. I think maybe, but I hope, of course I hope not, but I think maybe it is possible. Next comment, we've got Joel Robert. In my opinion, horrendous tactics gone all wrong for Ole. He still does not know his first 11. Do you all think his current tactics have been good this far? Well, I think you're probably referring to the game against Chelsea, Joel. We're talking about a game against Paris Saint-Germain. I think that one he did well. So I think credit where it's due. I think he did well against Paris Saint-Germain, and then he went and contradicted himself against Chelsea. So that's my opinion. Current tactics, have they been rather good? Well, it's always good when you're winning. So last season, especially, once the lockdown football started, I think we were doing fantastically well, and I think a lot of people has probably forgotten that, and that's probably as good as he gets. Hopefully he gets better, but that's my thoughts on it.
But let me add something here. Let's not confuse the audience in the sense of all managers should have like a magic tactic or like a specific way of playing. No, there are clubs that what they need is someone to just be in the room, manage the egos, manage the players, and of course together bring a good game of football. So other teams, depending on where they are in history, what are the objectives, and so on, will require someone with an impact. I'm sorry to go back to Pep Guardiola, because for me, in the past 10, 15, 20 years, he's been the one that really changed the game. He did it in Spain, and critics say that he did it in Germany, because Bayern Munich never played the way he used to play, and Man City more or less the same. However, for how long does this formula keeps on going? Don't forget that in Barcelona, he had his expired date. The same happened after 3 years, if I'm not wrong, in Germany. And I think Manchester City nowadays, I do have a feeling that he might be reaching to the end. Manchester United with Ole, what I do believe are looking after is maybe for the next Sir Alex Ferguson, which is someone that does not exist, because Ferguson, there is only one, and there will only be one ever. However, they need someone that, doesn't create controversy, manage well the changing room, and, if he's able to have an impact on the youngsters in particular, perhaps, influence their mindset and achieve some silverware. Manchester United is not looking for a Mourinho to create controversy and to be on the front of the papers for the wrong reasons every weekend. So I think perhaps the model might work, but it's just that he's not someone that is going to leave a legacy tactics-wise.
Yeah, true. I agree on that. So now moving on. Thanks a lot for your comments, everyone. Keep it coming. Next topic, Lazio return to the Champions League. Very, very impressive. I was caught aback by that result, because before playing Dortmund, they were beaten roundly by Sampdoria over the weekend. So I was wondering, how would they approach this Champions League game? Would they be, all in it, or would they be, caught with their legs in two boats? So this result, especially against Borussia Dortmund, not just any team in that group, Borussia Dortmund beating them 3-1 comfortably in the end. I think that was a very impressive start by Lazio. Well done to Lazio for that. I think we spoke about this last week. Maybe they might be saving their best for Champions League football, and then Serie A, they will see how it goes. And that's probably the approach from Lazio for this season, maybe. Yeah, quick check with all of you guys what you thought about Lazio's impressive start in the Champions League so far. Rafa?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised. I remember when we had to talk last week, I had my doubts about this Dortmund team, really what they can achieve this season. So it's a good result for Lazio, but it's not a shock in my opinion. I think when you look at the Lazio team, something that gets overlooked is the work that Simone Inzaghi's been putting in since being appointed as a manager in 2016. Which is a very long time ago in football manager cycle terms. So he's quietly been improving the team since then on a limited budget. Since then, he's had a couple of fifth place finishes. 2 years ago, he won the Coppa Italia, which is amazing because obviously the Serie A belongs to Juventus. So to win any other team to win the title. Yeah, and then he's had a couple of fifth place finishes, and last year, of course, the highest finish under him, he qualified in fourth place for the Champions League. So I think he's been doing really well, and they're improving under him slowly but surely. Ciro Immobile, we briefly mentioned last year. Coincidentally, he also joined in 2016 together with Simone Inzaghi, and he's been a revelation. I mean, you asked me, Raz, last week about his struggling form at Dortmund. He maybe didn't have enough time. I think when he came out, when he was asked about his time at Dortmund, he said he struggled because he didn't speak the language and he felt he wasn't really given enough time to succeed. But at Lazio, in the last 4 years, he's gone from strength to strength. If you look at the statistics, he scored 105 goals and 146 appearances in Serie A. Imagine that. That's better than 2 goals every 3 games. It's unbelievable. Like, he's the most informed striker in Serie A over the last couple of years. And Lazio have deserved to win.
And if I were to be a devil's advocate, I would say the defenses in Serie A are not as good as what it was.
But I think, Raz, I think that transformation is good. There is no doubt Italian football has changed and is changing. We see Lazio scoring 3, Atalanta, I believe they are scoring like a 3.7 per game, something like that. Definitely there is no more catenaccio.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as solid as it used to be. So, for me, from the show business point of view, all this is welcome. You have now Atalanta, Lazio, Juventus also got the 3 points last week. Let's see what happened tomorrow with, tonight or tomorrow with Barcelona. So, look, there is something new. Overall, it's the first game of the group stages, so it's still early. But I see the transformation of Italian football being more offensive and releasing players from staying at the back and playing forward. And I think overall, for us as spectators, it's good news.
Yeah, correct. That's true. That is a change in Serie A. It's no longer boring defensive football, 1-0 wins. That is true. A lot of clubs are adopting an attacking approach. Elvin, very quick thoughts on Lazio's impressive start.
Well, we did speak about like what Rafa said about Immobile. So he did get on the score sheet as well against Dortmund, and we were talking whether this was going to be like a revenge game and all that. Maybe why we thought it is more impressive than ever, because if you look at Lazio's form in the league, it's really not much to be desired, and so when we see them overcoming Dortmund, we think that it is something a huge mountain that they climb, but they did impress, and a great start for them indeed. Overall, I think they will get out of this group together with Dortmund, so we'll see when the time comes.
But saying that, Alvin, I think for Dortmund, they're playing Zenit St. Petersburg tomorrow, and that's an absolute must-win game for them. If they can't beat Zenit, then I think it's going to almost be.
And it's a must-win. And Zenit themselves had a disastrous start against Bruges. So it really that really spices up that game. Yeah.
Yeah, all to play for in that game.
Yeah.
So
I want to
moving on.
mention. I want to mention on the side that Dortmund did manage to get some confidence back as they beat their arch rivals Bayern Munich 3-0 over the weekend.
Schalke.
It was very convincing. So that should, against Schalke, yeah, of course, my bad. The other even bigger arch rival. So they beat them 3-0. So that should give them confidence to do well against Zenit tomorrow, one would think.
All right, moving on now. Elvin, this one's your topic.
Yeah, so indeed, what stunned us a lot, over the last match day one was the emergence of Angelino on the left side of playing on the left side of defense and wing back for Leipzig. And my goodness, the way the guy, in fact, there were times when you watch the game, he was the furthest guy forward. So like in the penalty box and all that, when there are crosses coming, he's there and he's playing on the left hand side, like left back, wing back, and all that. And in fact, guys, he almost got a hat trick. So he bagged a couple of goals, a very interesting and impressive display. So Rafa, what do you think? Is Pep considering he might get him back on the City squad again on the left to have this kind of firepower up front?
Well, it's a good question. He's an interesting player, Angelino. I think some reports had him down as a left back, but in this match he actually played more as a left midfielder. He had Marcel Halstenberg behind him, who's a left back, who can also play a centre back and is a German international, very solid at the back. So that helped Angelino to have the freedom to roam forward and to explode and then just concentrate on attack, which he did. Coming back to your question about Manchester City, well, he's actually signed in 2014 for City. That's already 6 years ago. He's 23 years old now. So it's the right time for him to really blossom. City loaned him out to about 6 different clubs, I believe. So he was a bit of a lone warrior before actually joining Leipzig at the start of the year. So he didn't just join him start of the season, but he actually joined him earlier this year. Leipzig extended his loan, and actually he's loaned until the end of the season. And there's a clause in his contract that if he plays enough and has enough appearances for Leipzig until the end of the season, he will automatically permanently sign for them. So for, I think, 18 million euros, which is 16 million pounds. So knowing that, it means that, unfortunately, for Man City and Pep, this is out of their hands. As long as he plays enough appearances, and judging by his start to the season, that's what is to be expected, then he will become a Leipzig player full-term next year. So he's been very good form, good start to the season. Let's see how he continues.
And if they're signing for that price, is a complete bargain. Knowing for the age and for that price where it fits in well. Yeah.
All right, moving on now to the biggest shock of the previous match week: Real Madrid losing at home to Shakhtar Donetsk. I got a question for Antonio. Is Sergio Ramos so critical to this Real Madrid team that without him they collapse? I know you're scoffing already, so let me hear your thoughts.
Sergio Ramos. Who doesn't want him in his team? Look, Real Madrid is pretty much Courtois, Sergio Ramos, Casemiro, and Benzema. After all these four, you can line up whoever you want. For me, sure, definitely the answer to your question is it is true. And I will try to elaborate a little bit more. Right. When he's on the pitch, his companion feels more secure, and he will always feel like, okay, if I'm not here, Sergio is going to be there. When he's not on the pitch, you are asking two good players, Varane in particular, to step up. And for as much as people will say Varane, top 5 centre-back in the world, blah, 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 my point of view is that Varane, without Sergio Ramos on his side, is a good player. He's not an outstanding centre-back. So that's what happens pretty much with Real Madrid. And when you have a player of this caliber, which means he is the one that definitely will elevate the moral, the energy, the one that will motivate, the one that in the changing room will be the speech, and it's pretty much the manager on the pitch. Of course, Sergio Ramos cannot always be on the pitch because he will get his yellow cards and then suspension. He doesn't get too much injured, but when it gets injured, Real Madrid has a challenge, because for as much as we think that the squad has every single position double, the quality gap in between the starting 11 and the, let's say, team B, I think this year is quite big. And we can talk about other positions, but definitely Sergio Ramos, not only this year, Sergio Ramos has been the soul and a legend for Real Madrid for the past, I would say 8 years, since Fernando Hierro, which he heritage his jersey number 4, left the club. Can't remember when, but I would say maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago.
All right.
Antonio, I think Zidane is probably watching our show, because I think yeah, Zidane and Ronald Koeman, because Zidane, Antonio must have probably heard your rant about Jovic and decided to just drop Benzema and want to start Jovic to prove his point to you, but it didn't work out. Yeah. So why? What happened there to this Zidane taking Shakhtar so lightly, like starting Benzema on the bench?
Look, if you would have asked me this question before the game on Saturday, and I'm referring to the Clásico, I would have given you a different answer. Now that they went to Barcelona and they won 1-3, I think the picture is completely different. As you know, and I think this happens across Europe, and in Italy, in Germany, in Spain, in England as well, when one of the top 2 teams or one of the top 4 teams in the leagues are doing very well, the other one is not doing very well. And this is something that counterbalance constantly. So when Real Madrid has a crisis, then Barcelona is playing fantastic. And when Barcelona has a crisis, Real Madrid is not playing well. I don't think Zinedine Zidane took Shakhtar lightly. I think he wanted to give some rest. He wanted to try new things. And I think he's a manager that he really wants to send a message across the squad that he counts with every single of the 23, 25 players that he manages. The other debate, the other conversation is, okay, is this team B that I mentioned previously close to the top quality of the starting 11 that we all have here for Real Madrid? My answer is no. That's why if you compare Benzema with Jovic, the difference or the gap is huge. And sorry to bring this back again, Jovic for me is not a player of a quality for Real Madrid. And I might sound very critic, but it's just my view. I give some examples also last week with Griezmann at Barcelona versus Atletico de Madrid performance. So no, definitely not taking lightly, but hey, if we want to extract something positive for this, is that, well, it was the first game of the stage group. So if you want to lose a home game, this is the one. However, they can miss the opportunity today against Borussia Mönchengladbach, because a defeat against Borussia Mönchengladbach will put them in a very tough situation. Again, my answer, or I would have shared something different before Saturday Clásico, because after they lost with Shakhtar, and actually they lost against Cádiz in La Liga before they lost to Shakhtar as well at home, everything was, stormy and grayish and a big storm in Madrid. But again, they go Barcelona, they win. Okay, the crisis is over. However, I will finish with what I said last week. 0 chances for Real Madrid and Barcelona this year to achieve something in the UEFA Champions League. 0.
Yeah, you heard that, Zidane?
Well, I can guarantee you Zidane is watching the show, or someone has reported this. And I told you Koeman as well, because he did not even play against Real Madrid in the starting 11.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a comment here. Who's it from? Mark. Mark again. Mark Hosagay. Antonio, Shakhtar missed quite a number of players for the game against Real Madrid. Did Zidane set the team up wrong in that particular game? Maybe I should ask Rafa instead, because I think, Antonio, we've already heard your views. Rafa, what do you think?
It's. I think, as Antonio mentioned earlier, it was about rotation. I'm aware that quite a few Shakhtar players were actually out. I think it was coronavirus related, if I'm not mistaken. They were in quarantine.
Right.
And one of the best players who is probably some of the fans know from FIFA and other video games, he's called Tyson. He's got this amazing name, this Brazilian attacking midfielder. He was one of the players out of the match. So, they really had absentees. It's even more surprising that they managed to beat Real Madrid, be 3-0 ahead at halftime. But in fairness to Madrid, whether they underestimated them or not, clearly they tried to experiment and rotate, bring in players that don't play so much. But in their defense, they almost managed to come back with and tie the game at the end, right? If not for disallowed goal at the end. So I think they'll come back, and in my opinion, they will still qualify from this group. As Antonio said, no slip-ups allowed.
Yeah, definitely. And let me add something else here. The legacy that Zidane has at Real Madrid as a player and as a manager, he is untouchable. Nobody can say anything against him. This guy was a star. This guy has brought in 3 UEFA Champions Leagues, and he is an outstanding manager of egos. He managed that changing room, he managed that changing room to perfection. The only 2 players he could not handle very well are not in the club nowadays. Number 1, Gareth Bale. Number 2, James or James, as he might be known. And that's it. This is the guy that made all these players UEFA Champions League champions for 1, 2, or 3 times, and it's a true reality. What everybody fears at Real Madrid is the president. So it's not the president firing Zidane. It's what's going to happen to us if Zidane decides to, hey, you know what? I'm tired. I'm leaving. Don't forget that he did this 2 years ago. After winning the UEFA Champions League, he say, see you later. So
but then it was much worse, Antonio. And then he had to come back, and he came back, and then he won La Liga for them, right? So
exactly. Because
he's an absolute legend, and he deserves more respect from the football world. I think if you want to make fun of a manager, it's his opposite number at Barcelona, who is under much more pressure and has won much less in his past. And I think they're not in the same league as managers. Zidane is a world-class manager, proven with his Champions League success.
And he's so close to Florentino Perez that, when Florentino called him a couple of years ago, hey, you need to come back, he say, sure, I can't say no. He already say in the media, I can't say no to Florentino Perez. Ras, Alvin, there are 2 questions in the chat that are very, very quick to answer, and I will love to do so, because one is the one from Hey Jude, which is no top signing this season, no one replacing Cristiano. The only signing that Real Madrid has in the close horizon plays for PSG, and it's called Kylian Mbappe. And everybody says, and actually Mbappe just rejected an offer from PSG to renew his contract, it could be a good sign that he might be going to Real Madrid, whoever knows what. And Zed asked about Isco. And Isco is another example of an outstanding player, but for Espanyol, or Malaga, or Valencia, or perhaps Celta, not for Real Madrid. Because Real Madrid is not for Isco. His style of holding the ball and slow playing and so on doesn't suit Real Madrid. Suits more Barcelona, and there were rumors long time ago that he could have signed for Barcelona. But it's exactly a very good example of signing someone who did a fantastic year at Malaga, and then Florentino Perez bought him for 30 million. I think he paid his clause, and he has not had a real impact in Real Madrid.
Another thing I'd like to add here.
Pardon, we appreciate the passion, but we got to move on now to the next.
I know, sorry.
A big game. This one, big result. Bayern Munich 4, Atletico Madrid 0. Well, I expect Bayern Munich to beat Atletico. Expected maybe 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, something like that. But 4-0, I was taken aback by that. Alvin, you go ahead with this, buddy.
Yeah. So this one also, I think nobody expected Atletico to just go down like this. And in fact, only one shot on target. What do you see happening here, Antonio? I mean, like, can Simeone take any positive from this thrashing, and how is he going to set up his side, to face Salzburg in the next game? Is it more of Bayern being really good and Atletico really being bad on that day, or what are your thoughts?
I'm going to be very, very brief in here. I promise. Number one, Bayern are unstoppable. Best team so far nowadays. I'm not sure if it's too early in the season, but anyway, they ended last season very well, and they are outstanding. Actually, if you watch again Atletico Madrid game, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, sure, one shot on target. They didn't score, but Bayern reached a few others, and of course their percentage of effectivity was much higher. What Simeone is taking positive from, he has closed the chapter already, and it's forget about this game. I think it was perhaps too much, but when actually he said in the press conference that, look, Bayern has been extremely effective, and at this stage they are in a different level, and it's absolutely fine to say it. They play a risky football, but is very, very effective when they are effective. But once again, if you take a look at the game again, Atletico Madrid wasn't that bad. They played their own game, but unfortunately nowadays Bayern and they play in a different league. Again, the positive thing about this is that it was the first game of the. Atletico Madrid might lose 2 games in this group stage, and 2 versus Bayern de Munich. The rest, he needs to get the triple.
All right, on Bayern Munich, Rafa, we spoke about Bayern's leaky defense. So was this a case of attack is the best form of defense, or were they just not tested enough?
Well, I think a bit of definitely not tested enough, but I would agree with Antonio's sentiment that Atletico weren't absolutely terrible in this match. It was just Bayern were so dominant, and they had an amazing team performance. So it wasn't just the usual suspect Lewandowski who actually didn't score in that match, right? It was more the supporting cast, particularly the French cast that stepped up. Tolisso scored a great goal. Kingsley Coman, who was also vital in last year's Champions League win, he stepped up with 2 goals, his second being an absolute worldie. So I think it's a great team effort. And what I'd like to say, what I didn't mention last week, but what I wanted to mention in the preview of Bayern is a big role to play has Hansi Flick, who's their manager of this team as well. If you compare the team before he took over, it was Niko Kovac who was the manager, which is I mean, he won the league, he won a double actually for them. Then had a couple of bad results and then got sacked at the start of last season. And since Hansi Flick came in, I mean, it's night and day. The way he brings the team together, he's not shy to play young players. He just gels the team together so beautifully. And I think in terms of the football, it's even better than what Guardiola used to do at Bayern Munich. The football is more effective. It's the best I've seen them play in recent history. And it's down to the manager and down to the team, how they perform as a team, not just as individuals.
If they keep this performance, I mean, the other teams, they can start thinking about the target is gonna be to reach the final. That's it. They will grab the title again. That's for sure.
I believe so. I mean, they have a great chance against Lokomotiv Moscow later tonight to get to 6 points. I expect them to win, and then it should be comfortable in the group already. They can already almost think about the next stage.
All right, we've got a question here. What's the question? Esteban Salinas. Not sure if he's related to Julio Salinas. What about Eden Hazard? How do you assess his performance? So, Antonio, this is for you again.
I'm gonna be very drastic. 0. We haven't seen him. He's been either injured or the, every time he's been in the pitch, which has been very, very little, not being able to really evaluate him. And trust me, this is the biggest challenge of Real Madrid for this year. They need to put a healthy Eden Hazard on the pitch if they want to do something, because it's the big signing of last year. Actually, Real Madrid, the two big signings of last year: number one, Jovic, we already talked about it; number two, Eden Hazard, and none of them have performed. And when you spend more than 100 million euros in two players, but the performance of both of them is not there, what are you going to do? You have the same squad as 2 or 3 years ago, with two new players which are not performing. It seems that he's starting to go back to the team. Actually, he traveled with the team this week to Germany, and I don't think he's going to play, but he might get some minutes towards the end of the game. But so far, performance-wise, I will say not impressive, because we haven't seen him.
I think it's a bit unfair to compare him to Jovic, though, Antonio, because Jovic has played quite a bit and he's been
absolutely. I'm talking overall.
Very unlucky, of course, but he's been very unlucky with injuries, and as you said, he hardly played. So, from a Chelsea perspective, it's very sad to see what's happening with him, because he's their best attacking player, in my opinion, but he hasn't had the chance to show it yet. So, hopefully, he can stay fit from now on.
And
all right. The next topic. We're going to move on now. Next topic is we've got news on the sensational European Super League. We've heard rumors of this, that all the elite clubs in the world, in Europe, are going to get together. They're going to form a league of their own. Well, there are certain things that are up in the air, whether this will be a league that will replace all the domestic leagues, or will it be an additional competition. I'm not too sure on that. My personal opinion, I'm not a fan of it, because I feel football should always be for everyone, and if you're good, you're good. It doesn't matter how big your team's name is, how much history you got, how much tradition you got, and nobody's got a right to be in the Champions League or earn the right to be in the Champions League or earn the right to win your cups and your leagues and all that jazz. So I'm not up for it. Antonio, would you support the formation of this league, or are you dead set against it?
I will support it. I think every week to be in front of a screen watching at PSG Barcelona or Real Madrid Bayern de Munich on weekly basis, it could be amazing. However, I see it something as an additional competition to the national league, something that is happening already with basketball. There is the European League of Basketball, where the Real Madrid, the Barcelona, and the top players will play with the top players in Europe. The only question mark that I have here is, as you know, this is something that is being promoted by FIFA, if I'm not wrong. So what about if FIFA gets a huge money back from, I don't know, an Amazon or a Facebook, which could be a new players into football? And what's going to happen? If they bring the money for TV rights and so on, definitely it's something that we could see very, very, very soon. My only point is, look, if FIFA is talking seriously about this, is because they have something quite solid. But I see it as an addition to the current leagues, to the current national leagues, and because I agree with you that football should be for everybody, and I still like my Getafe Alavés and my Celta Cádiz, and of course hoping for Espanyol to come back to La Liga this year. But definitely, yes, I will support it, but we'll see.
All right, Alvin, my man, you've been listening intently.
Yeah, so for me, I just wonder they are trying to define these big clubs as the Big 16 and all this. Of course, they have past history and all that, but not all of them are on that same level these days, guys, that among those clubs listed there. So doesn't mean that if you have won the Champions League maybe like 15 years back or something like that, it gives you the right, like what Ras said, to just be in that league. And to also mention what Antonio was saying about running concurrently, even that I see would be a challenge, because you only have weekends to really get the crowd engaged for this. And I'm sure the local leagues as well want to get these clubs playing on weekends as opposed to the European Super League, and that's just going to be a burnout. So if they are going to go ahead with this, it has to be plucking those clubs out of their domestic leagues and creating the formation of this league, which would be, I think, disastrous for the domestic league scene. So if you were to take these clubs out of the domestic league, what is left in those domestic leagues then?
No, La Liga cannot sustain or cannot survive without Real Madrid or Barcelona. That's very clear. So I only see it as an additional competition. Remember, it's happening, and I know it's different sports and less people is traveling, blah blah blah, but it's happening already. It has been happening for a while with basketball. So it has been able to sustain both leagues. The top team basketball players in Spain are playing, I think, an average of 70 to 80 games per year. I'm talking about Real Madrid, Barcelona basketball teams, together with the Valencia and other top basketball teams in Spain that I can recall.
Yeah, but like what you did mention also earlier, Antonio, regarding the big players like Facebook or Amazon getting in between, because I think this is important, because that's why I want to pose this question to you, Rafa. Like how do you see for these guys in these big clubs now to engage this young generation of viewers, right? Because they come from a cut of cloth where they do not really pay for TV, and highlights are available on the internet. There are lots of streaming platforms. Yeah. There are lots of streaming platforms for them to watch these games and all this. So, I mean, think about it. What if a guy like Netflix or somebody decides to buy these rights and put these games, the league games, as part of their package or something like that on Netflix? I think it will be a big boost. But what do you think, Rafa, about this?
Well, there's several topics here. So just to address the one primarily on new players coming in and the whole broadcasting and showing live matches scenario. I think Amazon actually is already in the game. That's nothing new. Facebook will be as well very very shortly. I think it's just everybody's trying to get a slice of the pie. But they can also do that with the existing competitions. I don't think you necessarily need to create a new European Super League for that. I believe a lot of opinions were shared on this formation. I'm strongly against it, so I agree with what Ras said earlier as well. Because primarily, I think it would actually devalue the existing competitions. It would devalue your local league, and it would devalue, if not kill, the UEFA Champions League. Because there might be no need. And then say if Manchester United or Liverpool are playing in this new Super League, are they also going to play in the Premier League and then also in the Champions League? It wouldn't make sense. So I think we have to take it with a grain of salt. But the fact that FIFA is involved in this, and it wouldn't just be them, it would also be some major players, some major sponsors. It's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Are you satisfied with the answer, Elvin?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So Thanks. With that, we bring to an end the review section of this show. It's been pretty exhausting and intensive as well. So now we're going to be looking forward to 4 matches in this match week. Starting off in Group B, because the results in Group B has shaken up the group a bit. So I'm not being biased, but of course, the first match I think we're going to look at will be Shakhtar Donetsk versus Inter Milan, my very own favorite team. I'll speak about Inter. Inter going into this game, they won the game over the weekend against Genoa, but against Borussia Mönchengladbach in the previous match week, I think we had the game in hand. It was a tight game, but we let it slip because of 2 defensive errors, and I think those errors are costing us this season in the league as well. So I think that needs to be cut out. Ashraf Hakimi was much spoken about before the game, and it turned out that he was unavailable for that match against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and due to a false COVID-19 test result, because his results turned out negative and he was fit to play for Inter over the weekend. So, I'm hearing that maybe Inter might want to sue UEFA because they've got the results wrong here, but that's a conversation for another day. But I think, Inter, we've played Shakhtar in the Europa League semi-final last season. We produced the perfect performance. I didn't expect us to beat Shakhtar 5-0 in the semi-final last season, but we did. And that was a really good performance, but this is a completely different game. We're going to Ukraine to play. It's not easy ever to play in Ukraine and Russia and places like that. So I think it'll be challenging for Inter, but this has become a must-win for Inter. Pressure is on Conte, pressure is on the team to perform, to do well. And Shakhtar is a really good team. I really like the way they play. The Brazilianness in that team shines through, especially when they go forward. So I think it's something to keep an eye on. Alvin, you got a question?
Yes. So I got a question for Antonio. What Shakhtar, this would be their best chance, right, to really stem the mark on the group if they can get a good result here, back-to-back results with two big teams, and of course, like what Ras said, the Brazilian way. So to me, Shakhtar is Brazil in orange. If Brazil team wears orange, is Shakhtar Donetsk. And basically, what are your thoughts on also Marcos Antonio, the boss in their midfield, and can they hold on to this guy any more longer?
Well, to be honest, taking the philosophy of Shakhtar Donetsk and answering your question, I do believe that definitely if they can beat Inter this week, they will definitely make a breakthrough in the stage group, because of course with 6 points, I think the expectations and the future will look brighter. Still not job done, even if they win, if they beat Inter, but definitely I think they will look much better than what they expected. If you are able to do 100% victories of the two first games of this group stage versus Real Madrid and Inter, I think it's definitely above expectations. I think this game is going to be at least a draw, because even though they are playing in Ukraine, Inter is definitely a tough team. In regards to Marcos Antonio, number one, someone with that second name must be a good player. So definitely someone to watch. I'm going to be very honest. Until last week, I never heard about him. I've done a little bit of research, and I will agree with Rafa on what he said before about the pair that they play in the midfield together with Maicon. I think it's very, very, very solid. I also like the right wing, Tete. I think he played very, very well against Real Madrid. He even scored one of the goals. And don't forget one thing, which for me is the key. We know Shakhtar is pretty much 50% Brazilians, or majority of Brazilians, with the Ukrainian, and I think they have one Georgian player. And they are a selling team. They bring in these youngsters, these players that nobody knows pretty much, because if they excel in a blink of an eye, the big clubs in Europe will get a hand on them, so they can pretty much, the return on investment that they have on these players, it is very hard. If Marcos Antonio keep performing the way he's been doing it recently, definitely he should be able to step up perhaps next year or in a couple of years. In regards to the game, as I say, I see perhaps maybe at least a draw. I'm very, very personally interested on the midfield battle, the ones that we mentioned with Marcos Antonio on one side, Maicon on the other side. Inter, it seems, for what I've read, that they might play 5 in the midfield. We have Arturo Vidal, which we know he's a warrior, and he tried to hold Inter midfield. And one player that I love from Inter de Milan, which I have no clue why they sold them to Inter de Milan, and he's a former Real Madrid player, is the is the right back, which now is playing a little bit more forward, which is Achraf Hakimi. And he did an amazing year at Borussia. Now went back to Real Madrid for the summer. Then Inter signed him. I know Real Madrid can buy him back at the end of the season, but he's playing on the right together with Arturo Vidal in the midfield. So that battle with Tete on the right as well, or left, Antonio and Maicon, I think it's going to be quite interesting. But if you ask me, I will give it a draw.
Okay, what any score predictions, Antonio?
I would say 1-1 perhaps.
Rafa, your score predictions for this match?
I'd say 1-0 Shakhtar. Sorry, Ras.
Elvin, you want to make any score predictions?
I say Inter will come out with a 2-1 win.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So that's at 1:55 tonight. Tomorrow morning. Sorry. Yeah,
I will text you. If I'm right, I will text you.
All right. I'll let's see what my mood would be, but I will surely reply. But I'm not sure what my mood would be at the end of the match. Moving on in that group as well, Real Madrid versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. Alvin, you got a question?
Yeah, so like what Antonio says, so Real Madrid are not in crisis anymore, thanks to that El Clasico victory again, and of course with the return of the boss Sergio Ramos back in defense. What are the chances, Antonio, in this game? And do you see player like Valverde running around, bossing the midfield like what he did against Busquets over the weekend? Well,
as I mentioned, I think the crisis for Real Madrid in La Liga is over, but it's not over in UEFA Champions League. If they lose against Borussia Dortmund, definitely that negative feeling is gonna come back, because everybody expects Real Madrid to do well, in particular in the UEFA Champions League. Ramos is back. The challenge, Valverde will play in the starting 11, even though he was substitute, I think with like 20 minutes to go last Saturday, because I know he was feeling a little bit dizzy, but he went through all the tests and so on, and he's fine. The challenge that Real Madrid has right now is, and I just mentioned Achraf Hakimi from Inter. Real Madrid has no right back currently. Carvajal is injured, and Odriozola is injured. So they will have to play Lucas Vázquez, which his natural position is a right wing, but actually he played, I think it was the full second half last Saturday against Barcelona in the right back, and he performed very, very well. For me, this is a clear victory for Real Madrid. But as I say, Real Madrid does these things that, they will switch off, and today, could they lose? Absolutely, they could lose. Could they win 3-0? Also, absolutely, it can happen. It's a tough game. It's in Germany. Historically, Real Madrid in Germany doesn't have a good background, but I think is that the urge of the team to start the points on the table is key, because I can imagine Real Madrid losing and then Shakhtar beating Inter de Milan. We will have Shakhtar with 6 points and Borussia with 4, Inter with 1, and Real Madrid with 0. And that would mean serious issues for Real Madrid. So I predict, I'm not going to say easy win, but a win for Real Madrid.
All right. Rafa, I watched Borussia Mönchengladbach when they played against Inter. I was taken aback because now German football has moved on from the previous era of the 90s, where they were known to be, very effective, an effective team, very tight in defense, very solid at the back, and then, nicking a goal here and there to win. That was the Germany of old that we grew up on. Me and Elvin, we grew up on that Germany. But they brought back that years in this game against Inter. They were really, really tight in the back. They were very organized, made it very difficult for Inter to find spaces, to get much of a chance. Inter had most of the possession, shots on goal, but we could only get one goal in the first half, and then we committed 2 mistakes. Mönchengladbach got back into it. What is your opinion on this Mönchengladbach team?
I think your sentiment is probably the same as mine. I think what comes to mind is the word resilience. I think they certainly showed that there are no pushovers in this game, right? Of course, on paper, Inter were the favorites, but I think Gladbach showed that they're brave and they have nothing to lose, and they'll be very, I wouldn't say too confident, but they certainly won't be too afraid of Real Madrid after seeing what happened last week with Shakhtar Donetsk. So I think that their manager, their players, they will look at each other and say, hey, we have nothing to lose. We're the underdog yet again. And I think they like that. They like to be in that role. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see another shock result. I'm not saying necessarily a win, but I would say that they have a good chance of drawing, maybe nicking it at the end. So yeah, outsiders, but pesky little outsiders who have nothing to lose.
Yeah, you got that right, spot on. Pesky little outsiders. They were pesky. Yeah,
I agree.
Score predictions. I'll guess Antonio, Rafa.
I'd say 1-1.
I'm gonna stick with what I mentioned, even though I agree with everything that Rafa said. They have absolutely nothing to lose. I've read what happened over the weekend, and I think they created like more than 20 chances. Borussia Mönchengladbach. So it is an attacking team. Real Madrid defense is not great. There could be an upset. However, I'm gonna trust on the needs of Real Madrid to get the 3 points. And once again, I'm gonna agree with our friend Hey Jude from the chat, and I will say 3-1 Real Madrid.
Will Jovic score, Antonio?
He's not gonna play. Benzema on top front. I will bet 1 Nasi Lemak.
But Jovic goes against a German team. Shouldn't he know Mönchengladbach better? No? Still no?
Okay. Next topic.
From a Gladbach perspective, I hope he plays.
Yeah, you see? It's clear. Yeah.
All right, we've got some comments here. Mark says Real would win 2-1. Hey Jude, we already know you say 3-1. All right, thanks a lot. Next game. This one is for me and Elvin first to address. Manchester United versus RB Leipzig. Elvin.
Yes.
What do you have to say about our club, man? Inconsistent?
Inconsistent. I think maybe you can say consistently inconsistent.
Yes,
okay,
well said. Consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, so it is tactical wise. I think he found. Manchester United likes to play on the counter. So if you watch the game over the weekend, Chelsea was sitting quite at the back, and that's when then they found themselves a bit clueless and all this. And the tactic against PSG worked very well, where he played 3 at the back with two wing backs, and So the thing is, Luke Shaw is not that marauding left back anymore. He has lost it. He doesn't have that oomph to cover the left and all this. He's much better off as a center left defender. Yes, exactly. So I'm hoping that Solskjaer goes with a 3-5-2 and start Axel Tuanzebe. Why did you not start him against Chelsea and all this? But even so the weekend game, it was there for the taking, but we did not take our chances against Chelsea, to be honest. And of course, some great goalkeeping as well from Mendy that basically saved Chelsea. So I just hope that Solskjaer puts out his best 11, like what Joel just now asked. Does Solskjaer actually know his best 11?
Yeah, I don't think so.
The fans can tell him who is his best 11, and on the left, you have Alex Telles, start him. what happened to Donny van de Beek? Why? What are you doing with that guy? You know, when Boston even is coming out and saying what? Okay, Ras, I think I'm ranting a lot. But what do you think?
I mean, the Chelsea game over the weekend, I was left frustrated also because I think if he had risked a bit more, we might have beaten Chelsea because this wasn't a fantastic Chelsea team. Well, in that case also, it isn't a fantastic Manchester United team. It's not a match like how it used to be between these two teams in the past. But still, I felt the game was there for the taking. We could have done better if, again, tactically, if we had risked a bit more. We had two defensive midfielders. They did their job well, but going forward, that's where we were found wanting some selection errors. But again, I always say that as a manager, you make the decisions and you live by it and you die by it. So unfortunately for Solskjaer, he has to die by it. So those decisions he made didn't vindicate. I hope, and I really, really hope we do well. And I mean, the 3-5-2, I think it came out as a big. Actually, he did use that last season as well. He played against City. He used the 3-5-2, worked very well. But I think I hope we do well. I mean, I'm just lost for words. I don't know what else to say. I'll just say, of course, we just hope he does well and he makes the right choices. Regardless of choices, also we do well.
And of course, let's not forget about their opponent. Their opponent RB Leipzig, very impressive, right? So Rafa, what are your thoughts about this RB Leipzig team and this infectious influence of Julian Nagelsmann? That you when you see that guy always pumping his fist and having that drive in him, exactly, there you go. So you cannot get more animated than this guy to really pump his players up, and he's really done a fantastic job with Leipzig. And so what are your thoughts on Nagelsmann and any other Leipzig player you look forward, any great matchups in this game beside the common names like Upamecano, I would say, in defense? Yeah.
Upamatose.
Yeah. Yeah, Rafa, go ahead.
Yeah. So Leipzig won again over the weekend, 2-1 against Hertha. That means that they're still top of the Bundesliga. Julian Nagelsmann is the main reason behind the team reaching the next level, I would say. Just to backtrack a little bit in his young managerial history, he's been a manager since 2016, and he's still only 33 years old. He's younger than, I think, all of us, probably.
All of us, yeah.
So he's been a manager since he was 29, 28 years old, actually. He was at Hoffenheim. He was brilliant for them. And then, of course, since 2019, the manager of Leipzig. And Leipzig were a good team. They're a smart team in the sense of how they built their team. They've had Ralf Rangnick, bringing them up the leagues and bringing them to the Bundesliga. And they're a very smart team, and they buy the right players. You wouldn't see them spending a fortune on a superstar. They invest in youth. They bring the right players together. They write coaching staff, facilities. So they're a very well-run club. And Nagelsmann is perfect in that. He's a key motivator, tactically astute, and last season we've seen it. They've reached the semi-finals of the Champions League, and I think this season they will go even further and they will win some competition, maybe even challenge Bayern until the end in the Bundesliga. So very exciting. Coming back to your other question about players, and I'll try to answer that briefly. Dayot Upamecano, I think we don't need to talk about too much. Yeah. Probably most fans watching this have heard of him. He's been linked extensively to your usual suspects in the Premier League. He's a classy French centre back, but yeah, he's gotten his fair share of attention. I think there are so it's all about the team again here, and there's not really one real superstar, and there's a couple of other players that I'd like to briefly touch on. One is, I think, big news is, of course, that Turbo Timo Werner left the team for Chelsea in the summer. So there was a big question mark on how can Leipzig actually replace their top goal scorer and main threat up front. So they've tackled this differently. I mean, like I said, they're top of the Bundesliga. They're doing well so far, but they haven't really settled on a number 9 or like a centre forward yet. So they've tried different things. They've tried playing with a false 9, where we have the very talented Swedish Emil Forsberg playing there. He's a classy player, of course, not your usual striker, but he's more a false nine, so he can do that. Last match, actually, over the weekend against Hertha, we've seen Alexander Solov playing there. He's a new signing. Premier League fans might know him, but you'd be forgiven not to, because he was a Crystal Palace player, played 16 appearances for them, but hasn't scored a goal. But then he was on loan at Trabzonspor in Turkey last year, and was the top goal scorer in the Turkish Super League. So he scored 24 goals. So they've got him as a weapon. They've got other players like Wang Hee-chan, the South Korean player. He's got 32 caps for South Korea, dangerous attacking midfielder. They've got Dani Olmo, young Spanish player. Maybe Antonio could tell us more about him in a bit. So they have quite a nice mix of players. And I think it's about team effort there that Nagelsmann brings it together. But I think anybody can be dangerous for Man United. And last thing I'm going to say, what you said earlier yourself, Alvin, is they're good on the counter as well. So I think Man United might have a similar game on hand as they had against Chelsea, but with Leipzig really waiting and trying to hit United on the counter. So it'll be an exciting match.
All right, we've got some comments here. Bring it on, producer. Hey Jude says, apparently Tuanzebe is still tired of defending Neymar and Mbappe. Yes, he's very tiring job. He's a 45-year-old man. Hey Jude, as predicted.
That's a big shout.
Leipzig 4, Man United 0. Okay, next. Jojo Yue says RB Leipzig 2, United 2. Okay, Yue, we're going to talk about you next. Next comment, Mark Hosagai. Ole versus Nagelsmann. This will be United's toughest game. Respect to PSG, but RB Leipzig offers a different form of challenge. Nagelsmann brings the best out of players. Look at City's Angelino and Crystal Palace Solot. Yes, Mark. I guess so, yeah. It could be a game where, PSG is a team like a known team. Nowadays, there are no unknown teams because of all the video analysis that the teams have of the players and all. I don't think there'll be a complete unknown to Manchester United, but yeah, probably there are hidden dangers there in that RB Leipzig team. Prediction time, Rafa?
It's a tough one, really. I think Leipzig will edge this. I think 2-1 Leipzig.
Okay, Antonio?
It's a complicated one. I'm gonna go for the easy one, which is a draw. I love Leipzig. How they perform in Portugal in the last UEFA Champions League, and I think they, again, nothing to lose. A whole bunch of young players, and I wish one day we can talk about what's going on with German managers. It's unbelievable the number of German managers out there performing well and without a big name on it. All these youngsters that perhaps players or not players in the past, but they decided to go into management, and gosh, they are really bringing in the results. But a draw for me, Man U, Leipzig.
All right. So a good topic to bring up in the future on German managers. They remind me of once upon a time the Italian managers were fantastic, and now we're not there. Now the German managers are on the rise. So now the final match that we're going to look forward to, the big match for this match week, Juventus versus FC Barcelona, is a repeat of the 2015 Champions League final, but of course a lot has changed in both clubs since then. On Juventus, the form of Juventus going into this game in Serie A, it's interesting to know that they've only won one game on the pitch, which is against Sampdoria in their first match. They were awarded a win against Napoli, and that game is still in contention because Napoli has appealed that result. But besides that, they've drawn quite a few since then. But the thing about Juventus is I never take this kind of negative results seriously, because Juventus always comes good when the time is needed to come good. So I'm very cautious on their form. Of course, I'm delighted that they're not doing too well, but never disregard Juventus. And I think at this stage of the tournament between Juventus and Barcelona, they're probably gonna be playing for the top place. Between these two, it's just going to be between these two for the top place. Nothing much riding on it. So I feel, well, not much pressure on either team, not much pressure on Juventus. So it would be an interesting game to watch, just for the star power that is on show. Juventus might be a little struggling in defense, by the way. No Chiellini, Matthijs de Ligt is out. I heard Bonucci got injured over the weekend, so he might be out as well. So they might be a little short-handed at the back. No Cristiano Ronaldo, so there's no Cristiano Ronaldo versus Messi matchup here. So that's my thoughts on it. Elvin.
Is the no Cristiano Ronaldo confirmed? Because I've heard that only a few hours before he will know if the swab test is negative, he might be able to play.
As far as I heard, the last I heard is not going to play.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, Alvin, I don't know what you want to add in there.
Yeah. So basically, like what Ras was mentioning about Juve's form and all that. Barca is going through another roller coaster year, and so Antonio, what do they take away from this Clasico defeat? And it baffles me that why are they? I mean, it's going to be a known fact that Messi is going to leave next year, right? And then once his contract goes out and all this, and what are they, keeping Griezmann there and letting him rot? What, Ronald Koeman over the weekend did not make any substitution until the 80th minute, and he was just sitting down there and watching the game. I don't know if he knew what was going on. He seems to get his tactics mixed up. Barca, no doubt, have got a great crop of young players. I was very impressed with Serginho Dest on the right side. Impressive American, and all that. So your thoughts, Antonio, on this? Did you see a disaster here for Barca in this game?
Okay, a few things, and actually, Alvin, you touch in a lot of interesting points. The first thing I want to say is that this game has absolutely nothing to do with the past Juventus FC Barcelona that we have watched, even the 2015 UEFA Champions League final, for several reasons. I think both teams are not at their best, for sure, in particular FC Barcelona, because my thoughts is that they are in the middle of a transition. And I think every FC Barcelona fan out there or supporter should understand that. And I will come back to Barcelona in a while. Juventus, new manager, I think, once again, Pirlo needs to really live, or, he needs to show what is going to be his style once he can have the full squad, for him available. If Ronaldo plays tonight or not, actually would be quite interesting, because if I'm not mistaken, that would be the first time that Cristiano plays versus Messi after he left La Liga. Yeah. But anyway, say that once we say that about Juventus, FC Barcelona, for me, in the middle of a transition, everybody thinks that Messi will leave. I would say that sure, a high percentage is that Messi is going to go. However, Barcelona is in the middle of an election to find the next president. That's going to happen in March. If the new president that comes in can offer exciting project to Messi, he might not leave. And I think, I'm not saying that Barcelona should build this new project around Messi, no, because Messi might have 1-2 years at the max of playing at Barcelona. But Barcelona nowadays cannot rely on 2 or 3 youngsters as it is relying right now. So you cannot tell, or you cannot hold the whole Barcelona foundation and history and background and so on Ansu Fati and Pedri and Trincao and so on. They brought in Koeman to play the bad cop role, because a lot of the attention recently has been in the changing room, and everybody was saying that the club was being ruled by the players, not by the manager, neither by the president. So they brought in someone that is going to play that bridge very, very well in between the president and the players, which is Koeman. He knows the club, he knows the history, and people respect him. When I say people, is the fans, the members of the club. One thing I can tell you for sure: if there were spectators in the stadiums this day, Bartomeu would have been fired already a while ago. So the current situation, in one way or another, is saving him. Koeman is doing, under my point of view, a good job because he's not getting married with the stars. He thinks Griezmann is not in his top form. He's going to play the player that he thinks will bring the best value to the team. And it's clear that Ansu Fati is already a fixed player in the starting 11. Pedri has been outperforming Griezmann recently. Koeman has a strong faith on Frankie de Jong and so on. Was he late on Saturday with the substitutions? Yes. Number one, he was late for sure. Number two, I don't think he played the right players in the right position to look for that extra energy or extra football to beat Real Madrid. My point of view is that if Barcelona get a draw against Juventus, it will feel like a victory. If they win, fantastic. If they lose, it's going to add more pressure. But I'm going to finish saying what I said at the beginning. Every single FC Barcelona fan watching the show and listen to us should understand that Barcelona is at the beginning of a transition. And the next 2 or 3 years is going to be a long journey where players will come in and players will go out because they need to be prepared for once Messi is not around. And as you can see, every single transition of every team has been extremely hard. There is no magic trick to do that. And for me, that is the challenge that Barcelona has.
All right, guys.
Pjanic will get will have some say in this game.
He hasn't found yet. Pjanic hasn't found yet the right tune. I think he's a very good player, and I think he can play very, very good as a substitute of Busquets or Frankie. I think the three of them could rotate, but it's still not there. I think Ronald has strong faith on Frankie de Jong and Busquets, and might rotate with Pjanic. But I don't think he will start against Juventus.
Okay. All right, guys, your prediction quickly, Rafa.
It's a tough one. If Barcelona wouldn't have Lionel Messi, I would say it would be an easy win for Juventus. But they still have Messi. He's still the best player in the world. So maybe 3-1 Juventus.
Okay.
I just want to say I'd love to know more. Maybe in the future we can talk again, Antonio, about Ronald Koeman. You seem to think he's the right manager. I'd love to know more about that. But that's for the next show.
Definitely we can do. But just get this idea that they brought him in to play bad cop, to be the voice to make the decisions. Period. There was nobody there who was nobody in the club before he arrived to tell Suarez, "I don't want you. Get out of here."
Competence is a bonus, but he doesn't need to be competent. He just has to be a backup.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not kidding. I think he can bring some results, but what he has achieved as a manager, if you think about it, you know what it means to be a manager of FC Barcelona, literally.
And I don't think he has the credentials to be the manager of FC Barcelona.
That is exactly, but not him. What Quique Setién, the manager before Koeman, what credentials he had, just because he used to say that, my philosophy of football is Johan Cruyff style of football, or because you are a Johan Cruyff supporter, we're going to give you the opportunity to manage the team. And we are going to fire our current manager, Ernesto Valverde, who won 2 leagues, and he was at the top of the table, but because he wasn't playing pretty football. Excuse me.
in club management, Valverde has done much more than Koeman in his career as a club manager.
200% against you. I mean, I'm not a Koeman supporter, but they brought him in because they need someone to play the bad cop role. Period.
Okay, gentlemen, we'll have this conversation on another day. I think there was an interesting comment before this. Producer, could you go back to the previous one? Steven John has said, Antonio, is Ronald Koeman getting the Barca job because of his previous connection with the club? Should Barca have offered the job to Pochettino instead, despite his Espanyol connection?
To be brief in here is a little bit difficult, but what I will do it. The first part of the question, yes, if Ronald Koeman would not have been a player of FC Barcelona in the past, he would not be managing the team nowadays, period. Number two, there is a little bit of miscommunication here because a while ago, some journalists asked Pochettino if he would ever manage FC Barcelona, and he say, impossible, not even, whatever. I will never manage Barcelona. But recently, another journalist interviewed him, and he explained that reply, saying that, well, what I say before, now the situation is different, and so on. Pochettino is, I believe, a stronger contender to take over Zinedine Zidane rather than Barcelona.
All right, cool. I have this one very interesting comment. Joyo Juve has said, Juve 4, Barca 0, 1 win and nasi lemak on me, Antonio. So there you got it. Someone's willing to treat you to a nasi lemak.
Excellent.
Okay, score prediction, Antonio.
I'm going to go with a draw. 1-1 or 2-2, whatever, yeah. A draw. Right.
Okay, with that, we wrap up the show. Hey Jude has said 2-2.
Yeah.
And we wrap up. The show has been really extensive and comprehensive, this show. Thank you very much for all your insights, everyone. Elvin, Rafa, Antonio, all the people viewing in with your comments. Thank you very much once again. We'll be back again next week. Have a good week ahead and a brilliant weekend. And also, I hope you enjoy the football that you watch. And I wouldn't say all your teams do well because some of you support my rivals. But yeah, just stay healthy. All right. Cheers, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.